The fact that there was a concrete barrier at the end of the runway is in conflict with what the International Civil Aviation Organization uh, requires of airfields. There should be a clear way to let airplanes that do happen to overrun a runway a place to sink into the mud and slow down and stop. There should not be a concrete barrier there. If you look at the video, you see the airplane is completely under control. It's on the ground. It's slowing down, and it would have come to a stop had it not impacted that concrete wall. When it impacted that, that's what created the blunt force trauma that is like the likely cause of the fatalities for most of the people in the airplane.
This morning, and as he said, the flight was operated by the low-cost carrier JJU Air, whose chief executive is Kim Bae.
Firstly, I bow in apology to everyone who has cherished JJU Air. Above all, I want to give my sincere apology and condolences to those who have lost their lives in the accident and their families. At the moment, it is hard to presume the cause of the accident.
So that was JJU Air's chief executive, Kim Bae. Here's the local fire commander, Lee Jong-hyun, on the possible causes.
We are presuming the cause of the accident to be a bird strike or deteriorating weather conditions, and the exact cause will be determined by a further forensic and joint investigation.
So that's Lee Jong-hyun, the local fire commander over there in South Korea. Well, with me now is John Cox, a former airline pilot and now an aircraft accident investigator. And John, you are the chief executive of the firm Safety Operating Systems. What do you make of that series of clips that you've heard there, ending with Lee Jong-hyun, the fire commander, saying, well, he thinks it's a bird strike? Would they know that quickly?
They'll know if the aircraft struck birds. There are reports of video reports that one of the engines ingested birds. And if that's the case, the airplane should be totally capable of flying on one engine. The 737 flies actually quite well on one engine. So was there a second engine loss that occurred due to birds ingestion as well? That could explain why the landing gear is still up. That could explain why the wing flaps are not positioned as they normally would be for landing. But it's speculative at this point. We are fortunate in that the accident investigators in South Korea are highly skilled, and they're working with the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board, along with Boeing and the engine manufacturer General Electric. So all of these experts together will be able to tell us in pretty short order what actually happened, and they have recovered both of the recorders, the cockpit voice recorder and the digital flight data recorder. Both of those recovered. Those will tell us the story.
And John, when three agencies come together like that from different countries, different origins, how do they work? How does that actually happen?
Under the treaties and provisions of the International Civil Aviation Organization, there is a protocol that is followed for aviation accidents around the world, and South Korea is a participant in the ICAO process, so they will follow that protocol. South Korea will be in the lead. They will gain expertise or draw expertise from the U.S. NTSB and from the manufacturers and from the airline. So there's a number of parties involved in the process.
Yep. And John, when news of this tragedy first came through, we heard that there was a significant number of survivors, and as the day unfolded, that number dwindled. It's now just two. And contrast that with the tragedy last week from the airline that I think took off from Azerbaijan, and we had 25 people surviving from the back of the aircraft. What can you tell us about the chances of surviving this kind of accident when the landing gear does not open up and you hit the ground hard, and then of course, sadly in this case, it hit some kind of fence?
That the fact that there was a concrete barrier at the end of the runway is in conflict with what the International Civil Aviation Organization requires of airfields. There should be a clear way to let airplanes that do happen to overrun a runway a place to sink into the mud and slow down and stop. There should not be a concrete barrier there. If you look at the video, you see the airplane is completely under control. It's on the ground. It's slowing down, and it would have come to a stop had it not impacted that concrete wall. When it impacted that, that's what created the blunt force trauma that is like the likely cause of the fatalities for most of the people in the airplane.
Right. So one of the things we know, as you just hinted, whenever there's a plane crash, a tragedy, the information is shared all over the world, which is why for all the hundreds of thousands of planes taking off and landing every week around the world, there are so few accidents. This, of course, is going to be sent out around the world. Exactly what you've said. There should not be a wall for any plane to strike, even if it's overshot the runway.
That's correct. And also, it's important to realize two things. One, in 2023, we flew like 35 million flights in a commercial airline jets without a single accident or fatality. Sadly, 2024 has not had that same record, but aviation today is incredibly safe. And it is the safest form of transportation ever designed by humankind. So as tragic as this is, and to the depth that the investigators will go to learn what happened and to ensure that it does not happen again, it's the ongoing continuous improvement that aviation requires of itself to keep getting safer and safer.
John, thank you very much for your expertise. That's John Cox, aircraft accident investigator. Your thoughts, please. Text us on 87222. Start your message with the word times, or WhatsApp us on 0333 003 2353 with your response to that story.